I'm here at the Dolmen Hotel where the Star Trek Symposium will take place. I'll be joined by Professor Victor Grech and Dr. David Zammit, who will be telling us more about the event. What is the aim of the event and what do you want to achieve by it?
Okay, the event is the first time that an academic meeting devoted purely to Star Trek has ever happened anywhere in the world. So in these 2 days we'll be doing something that has never happened before, like an academic meeting. So we don't have people dressed up as Spock, we don't have funny pointed ears, we don't have Star Trek uniforms, we don't even have Star Trek props. But this is serious thought about what goes on in Star Trek, philosophy, ethics, science and other interesting things of this sort.
And how has the public responded to the symposium so far?
Well, I think the public was a bit uncertain how to respond to it, because having 2 days devoted solely to Star Trek may have seemed a little bit strange. Even to my fellow academics were a little bit hesitant. But I managed to include quite a few people in the meeting, both academics and some people who are not academics, and things have gone very well so far. It is not a very big group, but it's a cozy group and we've had some interesting talks already.
How did you manage to attract an international audience?
Well, actually, I think this is the beauty of Star Trek. Once we launched the website, we had people coming in and submitting abstracts purely because the website was up and running. As soon as we launched the website, people started sending in abstracts from all over the world. So none of these are actually by invitation. All of these talks were submitted by individuals on their own steam. So people have paid money out of pocket to come to this meeting from different parts of the world, and they've paid a registration fee purely for the pleasure of speaking about Star Trek.
You've mentioned that the symposium is an academic one. How does Star Trek cross the border of being, just a sci-fi show and affect science and, ethics and medicine?
Well, some episodes directly reflect this. Even the titles. For example, there is an actual episode called Ethics. So not only do the episodes directly allude to it by title, but even the contents directly refer to ethics, philosophy, new aspects of science and what would happen with new technologies. And this is the way it goes. So this is why a meeting like this is useful, because it explores these issues and what problems might we encounter if new technologies were to actually become available.
Could you give some examples as to how it has directly affected science and the humanities even, because it's...
David will do the science.
There are a lot of things nowadays in use, like for example the smartphone or the mobile phone. In fact, the first Motorola was designed specifically on the communicator which was shown on Star Trek. On Star Trek we saw the first flat screens. Naturally at the time they were not really flat, but they were shown as flat screens. Tablets. There were a lot of things that nowadays we use commonly, which we first saw on Star Trek. There were even some medical issues, like for example the injector, the hypospray. Nowadays they're experimenting on it, so there were a lot of it, and even a lot of people nowadays I've seen, let's say from the computer world, where I come from, and other scientists who chose their particular line of work because they were Trekkies or they enjoyed science fiction.
So, with regard to how do the humanities come into it, the humanities have always been fascinated by science, so they too, not being in science, would like to see how scientists and other academics who work in the sciences think that science might lead us, and what might be the consequences. Again, the question you asked before.
So you've been Trekkies or Star Trek fans for most of your lives. So how do you think you managed to remain fans of it? I mean, most shows you will be a fan of them for a while, and then you're just a fan of them until it ends, sort of. But Star Trek.
Well, my mother tells me that I started watching Star Trek when I was 2 years. Probably I did not understand anything at that time, but I enjoyed it. Okay. What's strange about Star Trek is that they show a way of life that we would all like to live, where people live peacefully, where matters of war come last. Okay, materialistically it's a lot different. In the proper word, basically, we know that we have different classes. While in Star Trek, although there are certain types of classes, it's more a broad section. It's strange that Star Trek, for a lot of Trekkies, is a way of life. We've grown on Star Trek.
And the last question is a financial question. How did you raise money for this event? Did you seek out sponsorships, or is it purely from the...
We sought sponsorship and got nowhere. So essentially everyone is paying their own way. That's how it happens, unfortunately. There's no money for this sort of thing. So everyone pays a little bit, and at the end of it we hope not to make any loss. What you want?